Hello everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we're sitting outside. We just watched a water-damaged film strip, and it's a wonderful, horrible thing when water hits a film, because basically what you have is you have your base, which is a plastic of some sort, maybe polyester or acetate that's clear. Then on top of it, you have gelatin, which has all the colored dyes or silver in it. And when water hits it, especially when it's on a reel, and the water just sits there, then what happens is it makes the gelatin expand, and then it sticks to the base that's right stacked on top of it. And so you get all these crazy, they're beautiful, but they're horrible. It's like, wow, that's so pretty. Oh my God, that's the only copy of that film I have. That makes me very sad. So it's this bittersweet look at stuff. And there was there's been many times that we have lost films to water. Water is constantly a problem. Early on, there was Hurricane Fran that came through, and the power went out, so the sump pump didn't work. So we had 5 inches of water, and basically it destroyed hundreds of films. And I was depressed. I was really depressed. I didn't want to go through each film to see the damage, because what was happening is the cans were tight, and sometimes water would make its way in. Sometimes it wouldn't. It would kind of depend on the can. So I was really depressed. I met this filmmaker, Bill Morrison, who made a film called Decacia, where he was taking films that had decomposed. A lot of them were nitrate decompositions that were sourced from Library of Congress. But he talked to me and he was like, yeah, I'm looking for stuff that's been water damaged. And I was like, well, you're in luck. I've got a bunch. So he paid me to provide him with water damage footage. So at least I felt like in cutting out the footage, because in a lot of cases I just cut out what was damaged because it only made it so far up the reel. So I passed it on to him. So if you ever watch Decacia, it's pretty visually, it's stunning. It's a beautiful film. The music soundtrack is a little intense, but I still liked it a lot. But you'll see my stuff in it, and you'll see a call out to me and to Hurricane Fran. All right, so we've got some films that I've been sourcing from the library, not from Library of Congress, from National Archives. And here's a wonderful propaganda animated cartoon that was originally shown in Mexico. It was Spanish, but they have dubbed over in English. This is Kindergarten. Enjoy.
Hurry up in there, boys. You're going to be late the very first day of school.
Right this way, little scholars. Welcome to your new school, Pravda Prado. students, eh? Magnificent. You are so welcome. Let me help you. Ah, this way, this way. This is our little red schoolhouse. Books? Splendid. We check books here.
We check books here.
Listen, my children. First, you must learn to avoid gluttony. With my help, you won't find yourselves tempted. We begin the day by singing the school song together.
But why, teacher?
But why? In this school, nobody asks why.
Teacher.
Nobody.
When the teacher says nobody, nobody.
Right, boy. Now, look into mine eyes. Everyone stand and sing.
Father, Lord is good and kind. Discipline the wayward mind. Train us never to say why. Lest your wisdom we depart. Wash our silly little brains. Plant the seed and bring the rains. You will reap a harvest fine of glowing crimson party lines.
What did you learn in school today? Well, let's see. Who was the great liberator?
Tyrant Lincoln.
Huh? Well, who was the father of his country?
Tyrant Washington.
Tovaris? And how much is 2 and 2?
That depends.
Depends on what?
What the big Tyrant decides. Whatever the great Tyrant decides.
Who's this Tovaris?
Our great leader and fountain of all truth and wisdom. It's time that we do our homework. Wash our silly little brains, plant the seed and bring the rains. You will reap a harvest fine of glowing crimson party lines.
Very good. Now let's see what you did with your homework. Let's hear from you. Give your report.
Confidential report on my Uncle Burrito. He says that no Tyrant was a great emancipator.
What infamy? But good homework. And now you.
Uncle Burrito says that Big Tyrant was not the father of his country.
That is treason. For the fine report. Now you.
Thing, hut! Comrade teacher, for the glory of the party, you shall count aloud, clearly, and distinctly, up to 1,000,000,000,000.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and 16. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,000.
But more slowly, comrade.
1,005, 1,006, 1,007, 1,008, 1,009, 1,010, 1,011, 1,012, 1,013.
There's a bunch of these. This whole propaganda thing is phenomenal. It's really something. So not only are there cartoons, but here's another example. This is made by the United States Information Service, and this targets Middle Eastern countries, I think. Maybe a specific one. This is Heart of a Tyrant, and it's told with puppets. Enjoy.
In a coffee house that may not be too far away from where we are right now, an honorable sheikh who remembers all the old stories about Nasruddin Hoxha visits with his friend Burhan. It is an early hour of the evening when the sounds of the city usually fall to a few quiet echoes of the busy day.
Effendi, there is a crowd gathering in the square. Someone is shouting at them from the wall. Oh, it is Hamid. You know Hamid, Effendi. He comes in here sometimes. Now some of them are picking up rocks and sticks. They're running off down the square. My window! My window is broken, Hamid. You are going to pay for it.
I'll pay for a cup of coffee if you get it fast, that's all. Better stay out of the streets tonight. There may be a riot down at the government house.
Why do you do it, Hamid? All this violence.
What better way is there to deal with the dishonesty and corruption in our government? And the do-nothing officials who keep us a backward country.
There has been progress, Hamid, if you would open your eyes to it. By our own labors, and with American aid, we are building roads, new schools, new housing projects. Open your eyes.
I don't see anything good about the way things are going in our land. And others are coming to agree with me. And we're going to do something about what we don't like. You'll see. Ah! Just you wait and see.
He has the heart of a tyrant.
Pardon, Effendi?
Hamid, he sees only what is wrong and bad about him. Unfortunately, people listen to him. And there is nobody around today like Nasruddin Hoxha to make people realize that nothing good can come of a man who believes that violence is the way to solve every problem. Burhan, let me tell you about the Hoxha and an emperor who lived a life of violence. The story is called The Heart of a Tyrant. History tells us that the Emperor Tamerlane would order a man boiled in oil, or the heads of 10 slaves cut off without blinking an eye. But these same records also show that there was in Tamerlane's palace one man who, by his humor and wisdom, managed to keep the favor of the emperor. This was Nasruddin Hoxha.
What is this you bring me, Hoxha, when I ask for an account of the palace finances?
The accounts are all written here, sire, on this pancake.
A pancake? Hoxha, do you value your miserable life?
Sire, you threatened to make me eat the accounts if they were not in order. And since I trust you to do what you say, more than I trust my own addition...
Eat the accounts? Pancake?
Oh, that's very funny.
This was Nasr ad-Din Hoxha in the years when he was in attendance at Tamerlane's court. But as well as the Hoxha knew this tyrant, he was still sometimes shocked at the depth of the emperor's violent nature. Tamerlane had been away from the palace for a week, and then suddenly returned in the best of spirits. The Hoxha asked if the emperor had had an enjoyable trip.
Very enjoyable, Hoxha. Last Monday, a great fire broke out in the village I was visiting. There were some lives lost. I saw it all. Fancy, one man lost his mother-in-law and really seemed to be upset. On Tuesday, a mad dog bit 2 men. We burnt them with hot irons to prevent their going mad also. They bellowed like buffaloes. On Wednesday, there was a wild storm. All the crops were washed from the fields, and all the food in the storehouses was ruined by the rain. On Thursday, one of my war elephants escaped and crushed 5 or 6 people in its path. That kept me busy until evening. On Friday, a villager in a fit of frenzy murdered his own children. That made me very angry. I had the rascal put to death by slow torture. On Saturday, a large house fell with a crash. Men, women, and children lay buried under the ruins. One could hear their screams all over the village. On Sunday, a woman hanged herself on a plum tree. We went to see that, too. She left one little girl in a cradle. In short, Hoxha, every day of the week we found something to amuse us.
The poor Hoxha, utterly unnerved at these stories, still managed to respond with a touch of his wise humor.
Sire, thank God you have come back so soon. If you had stayed there another week, not one stone would have remained upon another.
And even the court attendants could not help but laugh at the way the Hoxha recognized Tamerlane for just what he was, a violent man with the heart of a tyrant. In that story of the Hoxha, there is a lesson for us today. The man who talks only of what is bad, what is wrong and what is undone in our country, is actually revealing his own violent nature, his heart of a tyrant. And if such a man is listened to, if he gains power from unquestioning followers, he could turn our country into a place where one stone does not remain upon another.
The Mary Chase marionettes, everybody. Oh my gosh. I mean, at least they didn't have a marionette woman who had just hung herself. Thankfully. Wow. There's a lot more of those. And I will be peppering those in for the next couple of weeks. Because they're something else. They are really amazing. But let's get back to what we know and love, and that is Cornet Films. This film, I showed another version of this that I had where the color was not very good, and we just scanned one where the color is just gorgeous. So I figured it was 2 years ago, so let's watch it again. And it's just an important reminder. Let's keep food safe to eat.
breakfast and at other meals. We like to eat foods that are fresh and clean. To keep food this way, Mother, Steve, and Kathy do many things in their home that you probably do in yours. Before eating, they always wash their hands. Well, almost always. How could Steve have gotten his hands so dirty? Oh, well, boys have a way. While Steve washes his hands, Kathy will get the silverware. Oops, she dropped a spoon. Will she use it anyway? No, she places it in the sink to be washed again. Is this something you would do? Later, Kathy pours the milk. As soon as she's done, she returns the bottle to the refrigerator. Is this something that you would do? Now, Steve is ready for breakfast. And Father, too. Father is also careful about the food he eats. The sausage looks good. But it doesn't taste right. So, he won't eat any more of the sausage. It may be spoiled. Often we can tell if foods are good to eat by smelling or tasting them. You should never eat foods if you're not sure they are safe. Steve is going to eat some cereal. Closing the box after he's done with it helps to keep the cereal fresh. Later, when Mother takes out bread for the children's lunch, she closes the wrapper again to keep the bread fresh. Mother is going to put apples in the lunches, too. But the apples may not be clean. Before arriving at our home, apples and other fruits may have been handled by many people, although they shouldn't handle them. When apples are growing, on apple sprayed with insecticides so that insects will not eat them. Washing fruits and vegetables helps remove dirt or insecticides that may be on them. Washing dishes also helps us keep our food fresh and clean. To find out why, let's do an experiment with some leftover food on a plate. What do you suppose will happen if the food is not washed off? After several hours, we can see some changes. The slices of peach have turned brown, and the lettuce has wilted. After several days, we can see fluffy stuff on the food. This is mold. The mold growing on the food and germs too small to see may be harmful. Some molds and some germs can make you sick if you eat them. That's one reason why we wash dishes, so that we don't give mold and germs a place to grow. Now let's see what if a bottle of milk is left out of the refrigerator for a long time. After a day or so, it begins to sour. Sour milk is not harmful. But if the milk is left out too long, it can get like this and may not be safe to drink. That's why it's important to keep milk and other foods that spoil easily in the refrigerator. What about the spoon that fell on the floor? It looks clean. At least look at it more closely. Along the edge, you can see bits of dirt picked up from the floor. Dirt may not make you sick, but it's safer if you don't eat with things that have fallen on the floor until they're washed again. Washing our hands before eating is important, too. These hands may look clean from here, but a closer view shows dirt along the tiny grooves of the skin. There are germs here, too, although you can't see them because they're very tiny. Tiny, invisible germs may be left on the food you touch. This bread, for example. If you look at the bread very closely, you can see dirt left by the fingers. Where there is dirt, there are usually germs. The best way to get dirt and germs off your hands is to wash and scrub them well, using lots of soap and rubbing it in between the fingers, on the back of the hands, and on the wrists, too. Gets them clean all over. This should be done especially before handling food, as at mealtime. See how clean the hand looks now? Even when we look at it very closely, dirt and germs that
So frustrating. So frustrating. So frustrating. So frustrating. Hello, are you there? There I am. Okay, so I don't know who claimed that. I'll find out, I'm sure. But I have permission from Coronet to do it. So it's traditionally it's something that sometimes Shout Factory claims because they rep Mystery Science Theater episodes. I don't know. Anyhow, maybe I'll let you know next week. Okay. Here we go. Let's go move on to reading to enrich your classwork. Enjoy.
A textbook is required reading for most of the subjects you study in class. Sometimes you may wish to read enrichment materials, magazines, pamphlets, newspapers, and other books on the same subject. Why? For the same reason that when you eat a good steak, you may wish to eat other foods to make your meal more satisfying. Enrichment materials can satisfy your reading appetites more completely than can the text alone. How can enrichment materials do this? One way is by relating text material to your special interests. Special interests. Everyone has them. Ken likes baseball. He reads a book on the history of baseball for enrichment. It tells how the Indians played a game like baseball.
and how the game was played by George Washington's soldiers at Valley Forge. This enrichment material adds to Ken's enjoyment of his text on American history. It helps him learn more about Washington's soldiers and what they did. Joan's special interest is art. When she reads her textbook on the ancient civilization of Egypt, will her special interest in art help? Yes, if she the art of ancient Egypt for enrichment. See how she relates this special interest to her classwork? If your text is on geography, you can do the same thing. Suppose your special interest, like Steve's, is boats and ships. You might want to read for enrichment on this subject a book on famous harbors of the world. Ships and geography. See how it fits together? Or suppose your text is on science, and the chapter has to do with chemistry. If your special interest, like Karen's, is cooking, you can relate this to the textbook through a book on learning science through cooking. Enrichment materials can help you learn about most any subject in terms of your special interests. Special interests. That's one benefit of enrichment reading. Another benefit is entertainment. Enrichment reading can make classroom subjects more entertaining. Suppose your text is on science. You may not think of science as being a highly entertaining subject, but it can be. Take this section on light from electricity, for instance. It tells about a wire made of tungsten. The text gives facts about this material, that it is an important part of the modern incandescent lamp, and so on. Interesting facts, but not exactly entertaining. But suppose you read for enrichment a book about Thomas Edison, the scientist-inventor who perfected the electric light bulb. When Tom Edison was a boy, he was found one night sitting on a nest of straw. What was he doing? His dad asked. Sitting on some eggs. Why? What was the reason for this strange behavior? Could Tom explain it? Well, he had been watching the mother hens in the barn sitting on their eggs to hatch them. He was curious to see if they hatch eggs by sitting on them. Early in life, Tom was showing the curiosity that was to later help him become a famous scientist. You can see how this story of Edison brings out human elements of science, making it entertaining. This book entertains by presenting the same facts you'd find in a science text, but in a different way. It's about the life of a bear, from the bear's point of view. Imagine yourself a baby bear being cared for by a mother bear. Imagine the fun of searching for your food high in the branches of a tree. Classwork can also be made entertaining by poetry. Here's a poem describing different kinds of bees and the jobs they do. The worker bee has her own style, different from the queen. Her body is much stouter. Her eyes are very keen. Her pointed tongue is like a tube. She sips the flowers gay, much like we sip our lemonade on some hot summer day. Enrichment materials can add entertainment to classwork. They can also add details beyond what you'll find in your text. Suppose your text is on geography. You're reading a chapter on Mexico. the entire country in just 10 pages. This allows only a few paragraphs on each of the major features. This single paragraph is about schools, which is all you need for an overview. But suppose you want to know more details about the schools of Mexico. Suppose you want to know where a school is located. What a Mexican school building looks like. What the pupils wear when they go to school. Where they sit. How they are taught. What subject, and so on. You can get these added details from reading. Along with added details, enrichment reading can also contribute to the accuracy of what you read. Suppose your text is on American history. This one has a chapter on Lewis and Clark, explorers of the West. Reading through the text, you get the author's account of the exploration. According to the text, they met many more Indians. Each time, Captain Lewis spoke to them and gave them presents. The Indians promised to be friendly. Friendly. How does the author know they were friendly? Probably from reading this book, The Lewis and Clark Expedition by Meriwether Lewis, the man who headed the expedition. Here are Lewis's actual words, described with the Indians. The next morning, the Indians, with their 6 chiefs, were all assembled under an awning, formed with the mainsail, in presence of all our party, paraded for the occasion. A speech was then made, announcing to them the change in the government, our promises of protection, and advice as to their future conduct. They expressed their joy at the change in the government, their hopes that we would recommend them to their great father, the President. So the Indians were friendly. You can see how original writing such as Lewis and Clark's expedition can help in checking the accuracy of what you read. In addition to accuracy, enrichment materials can help you get points of view other than those found in your text. In a health text, for instance, you might come across the subject of air pollution. The author gives you his views on the causes of air pollution and its cures. But you may want other points of view. You can learn what other people have to say through enrichment reading. Your librarian can lead you to a number of sources. One of them is The Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature. This is an index that tells about articles that have appeared in various magazines. The guide lists the articles by subject matter and tells where to find them. You may find one that considers air pollution from the point of view of an industrial spokesman. Another from the point of view of a weather expert. Or air pollution as seen by a medical expert, an economist, and so on. A newspaper index will tell you what information has appeared on your subject in the various issues of the newspaper publishing the index. Your librarian can also lead you to the vertical files, which contain pamphlets on the subject. By reading about problems from many points of view, you will get a clearer understanding of the problems than by relying on your text alone. You can see then that there are a number of ways in which enrichment readings can satisfy your reading appetites. Anyone for a full meal?
Now, what could be worse than that?
But I can't burn this book. It's school property.
Nonsense! Apple sugar. You just need to get into the mood.
Books are not where it's at, teaching you how to spell cat. I know you'd rather play, so why don't you throw all your books away? Books are made for burning, the fire is already yearning to put an end to any learning.
1, 3, 5, 9, throw 'em in the fire's fine.
Put the books in the fire, see the flames growing higher. Burning books is our heart's desire.
2, 4, 6, 8, time to incinerate.
Books will not make you wise, and reading's bad for your eyes. I am sure you agree, so why don't you give all your books to me? Books are made for burning, fire is already yearning to put an end to any learning.
This one here is very good about a man named Robin Hood.
Put the books in the fire, see the flames growing higher. Burning books is our heart's desire.
No, I never liked Tom Sawyer. I won't be a book destroyer.
Books can only confuse, teaching you things you can't use. You should listen to me. Burning your books will set your mind free.
So that must be. So I don't have that clip on my computer, so I went to Dropbox where I found it, but I think it's been cut because I used it in the toe tapping tournament years ago, and so that it doesn't have the incomplete song. So I'm working on that. Thank you, Rich, for the donation via the Super Thanks button. I will search down the full version and put it on my laptop. Being off-site has thrown chaos to a lot of the things that we've been able to show you and do. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. This is another film from the National Archives. And it's convincing farm owners to redo their kitchens. Enjoy.
These plans were developed for people just like you. People who are interested in having the very latest ideas in design that will help them cut down on the time and the effort that must be spent in doing kitchen work. Since you folks have an old-fashioned kitchen, You know the amount of stooping and reaching that must be done, and the running from one corner of the kitchen to the other. During the last few years, our Bureau and the land-grant colleges have received hundreds of requests from farm homemakers asking for suggestions that would help them do their kitchen work faster and more easily. That's why we've developed this kitchen.
Well, just how did you go about developing the design for this U-kitchen?
We based our planning on established principles of work simplification to supply storage space and workspace for all the activities that take place there, arranged for maximum convenience and with good working heights and good light. Incidentally, we developed this U-arranged kitchen first, but the principles of planning we used we can apply to other arrangements, such as the L and the corridor type. Laboratory research in our Bureau and in the state agricultural experiment stations has made evident many of the requirements of a good kitchen. For example, we have learned that more counter space is required for the making of cookies and bread than for any other mixing operation. Experiments have shown that we need at least 36 inches and that 42 inches is a more desirable length for the mixing counter. Different kitchen jobs have been studied to determine the most comfortable working height for each. To obtain different heights in our kitchen, we use pull-out boards. We designed revolving corner cupboards to make the greatest use of available space. These bring things out in the open, so they're easily seen and reached. Models for many features were made and experimented with. Some were used, some discarded. Good lighting is important in the kitchen. To obtain this, we developed a design for a homemade fixture, which would enable the farmer to use modern lighting at minimum cost. A shallow wooden trough in which we mounted 4 40-watt fluorescent tubes was hung 8 inches from the ceiling, above the work centers. And finally, our kitchen began to take form. The units for each activity were put together to secure an orderly sequence of work. We planned this kitchen to take care of the preparation of food, eating, clearing, and some food preservation. As a convenient place for the telephone and for making out menus and market orders, we also included a planning center. The planning desk is actually a drop-leaf table on casters, which can become a tea cart or an extra work or dining table. By placing a large picture window across the end of the kitchen, we gained the benefit of natural light over all work surfaces. Since most women prefer to work from right to left, we placed the mixing center in the right leg of the U, between the refrigerator and the sink center. In the mixing center, as in all other work areas, we planned storage facilities to take care of all of the supplies and the equipment used in that center. These revolving corner shelves make it possible to store the heavy and frequently used foods near working level. They are roomy enough to hold all of the staple supplies used here. Just below counter level, shallow drawers give handy access to small equipment used in the mixing center. Even in the best of kitchens, one will have to stoop sometimes. Store here only things used occasionally, like picnic supplies, extra large baking utensils, and odds and ends. See how easy it is to get at what you want. We designed the smaller top shelf for long-handled pans to allow full use of the shelf space below. Space ordinarily wasted is utilized to advantage by these built-in bins for flour and sugar. Another advantage is that they eliminate canisters, which take up counter surface. Behind the door, a container holding 40 pounds of flour feeds into the smaller bin below. Top shelf space is used to good advantage by vertical files for baking pans. This does away with stacking and with stooping or excessive reaching. This mixing center, like the other centers in our kitchen, embodies all the principles of good planning. Thus it has plenty of work surface at comfortable heights, well lighted by natural and artificial lighting, with everything needed stored within easy reach. For sitting at work, this pull-out board at lap level, 26 inches above the floor, gives a good working height. It permits a woman to sit comfortably in an ordinary kitchen chair with a good backrest, her feet flat on the floor while she's working at long and tedious jobs. To supply additional work surface in food preservation, the table from the planning center can be easily rolled over and placed next to the pull-out board. To the left of the mixing counter is the vegetable preparation and dishwashing center. With knife rack and utensil cupboard at the right, vegetables in front of her, and sink at the left, this worker has a step-saving setup for preparing vegetables. A garbage hatch in the counter eliminates stooping and avoids repeated handling of garbage. The pail in the metal-lined compartment below can be removed for emptying from the outside through an insulated door in the wall. All bins and the compartments into which they fit are designed for easy cleaning. In the cooking and serving center are all of the supplies and equipment used at the range. Right above the range are bins built into the wall for foods such as cereals that go directly into boiling water, and also for seasonings that are used at the range. Notice how these doors fold back, safely out of the way. Serving dishes and range utensils are close at hand. The serving counter next to the range is convenient to the dish cupboards. Sliding doors back of this counter and cupboard give access from the dining room side. In the dishwashing center, dishes are scraped directly into the garbage hatch and stacked ready for washing. A double bowl sink provides for both washing and draining. The one on the right is shallow, about 5 inches deep, making for a comfortable height for dishwashing. The drainer
hangs across the deeper bowl, with room at the side for emptying liquids. This bowl, because of its depth, 8 inches, is also satisfactory for washing large quantities of fruits and vegetables. Just back of the faucets is a cupboard for storing soaps and cleaning supplies. Extra supplies and a handy wastepaper basket are kept under the sink. After they're scalded and dried, silver, glass, and dishes are stored in adjoining cupboards. Here's a handy rack for drying dish towels. Out of the way of meal preparation is this storage closet. Besides cleaning equipment, it has a rack for first aid supplies, convenient for emergencies. The upper section is reserved for a few jars of canned foods, saving trips to the food storage room. This serving counter, adjacent to the range, is convenient to both the dining room and the kitchen dining table. This attractive dining space has been planned to be compact, but not cramped. It gives ample room for a table that can be extended to seat 6 comfortably. A ledge under the large picture window is wide enough to hold the electrical equipment used at the table. Shelves below give convenient storage space. In this kitchen that has made her task of food preparation so much lighter, the housewife can share her family's enjoyment at mealtime.
Yeah, there you go. All that experimenting that they did. The labs, the kitchen labs. I love that idea that there's laboratories set up, and I'm guessing that was USDA, to determine the most optimal way to set up a kitchen. It makes me very happy. That's tax dollars well spent. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. So I did a little bit of research, and sure enough, Mystery Science Theater did show Let's Keep Food Safe to Eat a long time ago, which means that it was probably Shout Factory that brought the hammer down to stop the streaming. And that's the deal with YouTube. YouTube is not fair. They're not right. Their knee-jerk is usually wrong. So, it's very frustrating, but I appreciate your patience with that. It seems to be something that happens, and we just deal with it. Because this is the platform that we use. One day, maybe there will be another platform where I'll be able to transmit these films directly into your eyeballs. Like, we won't even need a phone or a computer. It will you just wear these glasses, and then not even glasses. We'll just have these little things that are implanted right here, and these films from the 30s and 40s, 20s, and then unfortunately that Creating Shapes film that I showed the other day with this insane strobing effect will probably cause some seizures. So, anyways, but that platform will not be YouTube. It will be some other platform. But it is guaranteed that it will have advertising. That's just the way it is, because the human species requires advertising to exist. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. You guys have a great weekend. I appreciate. February was a crappy month. Didn't like it. Lots of weird stuff happening. Not a fan, but you guys made it all worthwhile. And I appreciate you guys watching and being there and sharing. And we'll just keep doing it. March. We're going to march forward. So we will see you on Monday. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And beware of wolves teaching kindergarten and hypnotizing your children. Take care. We love you. Bye-bye.